You know, I was thinking to myself the other day, I'm like, what makes a great wrestler?
I haven't the foggiest.
Is it their ring gear? Is it their move set? Is it their, tried and true 20 plus years in the business, scratching and fighting out of the indies and, the territory, pulling themselves up by their bootstraps and getting to the top and, becoming WWE champion at some point or another.
Or it could be a song.
Or a theme song. Yeah, it could be that. But
Personally, I thought gag reflex had a lot to do with it.
that's for the divas. That's for the divas. We'll talk about that later.
Well, I think.
There are rumors about Johnny Ace. Besides that, it was just, this. Yes! And well, if, wait, wrong button.
Yeah, I would still argue that would come into play.
If I can be serious for a minute.
This is Wookatirius number 35. My name is Gunner, as Omega BR.
Yes, it is.
And we are joined by our sound producer, Yank of DDS.
Hi, guys.
And we are joined this week by a couple guests. First and foremost is our great friend Vassar.
Hello, everybody.
And this week we have from the Plastic Joint podcast, we have Ramses and the Outlaw.
Woo! Because when it comes crashing down and hurts inside, you gotta take a stand. You just can't help but hide.
Well, and with that being said, let's get right into the news. Alright, so this week, Brock Lesnar's new WWE ring gear was revealed yesterday, which featured MMA-style shorts with sponsors on them. Lesnar's new shirt will also include logos for sponsors, including Jimmy John's Gourmet Sandwiches. The thing is sort of unprecedented in the WWE. It appears that Lesnar has negotiated a very unique deal with the company. Now, back in 2003, when Shelton Benjamin was getting hot, his actually were the people that started the Under Armour brand. And now you've seen how well that's blossomed. It might as well be a Nike or a Reebok or something like that. The whole deal was that he would name spokesmodel person thing to wear the Under Armour and whatnot, and he would be their main person, but the WWE shut it down. Now, it's kind of weird to me that Brock Lesnar would get such special treatment, but it's Brock Lesnar, so I'm kind of not surprised. What do you guys think?
Well, I remember the test was going to be supposedly going to be a spokesperson for Bodman fragrance spray, and you see how well that's taken off.
Well, for me, what was interesting is because in Mexico, you see a lot of the wrestlers nowadays, they come out with like sponsored gear, like when they come out to the ring. So it's like, it comes as no surprise with seeing Brock. The only thing that surprised me is like, it's MMA gear. That's the part that surprised me.
Yeah, WWE.com released pictures of Brock, and apparently he's in gloves and MMA trunks, basically.
They're really going forward with this MMA thing.
Certainly he has sponsors left over that he has to comply with his UFC contract and such. No Bud Light, I noticed, but Jimmy John's, which, by the way, I have a problem calling them gourmet sandwiches.
They're gourmet, are you kidding me?
If gourmet is French for sucks, I'll have to look that up. Anyway, speaking of French words, i.e. harsh words, the Mick Foley-Dean Ambrose storyline is taking an interesting new twist, as Foley has essentially posted a blog saying that it's over. He says that he admits that the two were working together, but not anymore, because Ambrose apparently failed to honor his simple and singular request that Ambrose not bring up Foley's children into the mix. But apparently that was something he did do, and as a result, Foley feels he can't trust Ambrose in the ring, face to face, if he can't trust him not to honor a simple request. And Ambrose, in response to this, said, quote, "I never actually insulted Mick's dumb blind wife or his traumatized ignorant children who think he's a good person. Hashtag lost generation." So is this just another Inception-like layer to the story, or is this Foley being genuine? Because Foley's not typically the kind of guy to be ingenuine.
Disingenuine is the word you're looking for there, and I think it's something more along the
I
line
know what
of.
it is.
All right then. Yes, and symbology is a real word. Whatchamacallit? This is a work, and we will see this match at some point or another.
Perhaps some strategery on Ambrose's part.
Well, speaking of fake words and things that are made up, Kurt Angle announced last week that he was being forced to pull out of the Olympic trials due to an injured MCL in his knee. He commented that he had to put his job with TNA first, and that the partial tear will take 4 to 6 months to heal with rehab. Dixie Carter commented, saying she was heartbroken for Kurt, and Angle did work the lockdown pay-per-view with his knee heavily wrapped up. However, this injured MCL didn't stop him one bit from climbing up to the top of the cage and hitting his godforsaken "I'm gonna kill myself" moonsault.
You know what, guys? I swear, next year, next pay-per-view, maybe lockdown again, we're gonna see Kurt Angle wrapped up like a fucking mummy and just drag his feet down the ring and guess what? He's still gonna do the moonsault.
I think it'd be perfect for that Human Torch spot that they did in WCW that Vampiro and Sting had.
God. So no, it just for me, it comes as no surprise that they that said this because we all know he's in no condition whatsoever, Pete, in anything. Let alone the Olympics. So it's like it just surprised me. It's like he was gonna resign from training. So what can we do?
Well, he talks such a big about competitive sports, but the reality is, you know, he can work a controlled environment, even if that it does entail jumping off a cage. But when it comes to somebody trying to injure him, you know, his body is probably at this point brittle when it comes to that. I don't think anybody didn't see this thing. He even roped the BBC and the New York Times in reporting this. But, you know.
5 years later, I'm gonna be able to compete in a chess tournament.
He'd still do a moonsault off the table after he won.
Well, speaking of competitive sports, Variety is reporting Dwayne, quote, Johnson is teaming up with producing partner Danny Garcia and Ben Silverman's Electus Entertainment to find the next great hero in the new reality series titled The Hero. 3 teams of regular people will be sent on an adventure across 3 continents in missions that will require sacrifice, and working together in Rock will not host, but will provide encouragement by appearing in various incarnations, and he will promote the show through social media, pre-production to the live broadcast. So basically, doing what he did on Raw this past year.
Wait, I read like appearing in various incarnations. So is he gonna dress up like an old lady waiting to be rescued by these 3 teams of heroes or something?
I think he's voiced like a CGI parrot in one episode, and then, you know, appear as a winch on a pirate ship or something.
So even like Tupac.
Yes, he'll appear live via hologram instead of satellite this time. It's 2012, given the times.
Well, I can't help you. I've heard this concept before. It sounds a lot like The Amazing Race and The Great Escape, and even a little touch of Manhunt there. Little trivia: John Cena starred in the 2001 UPN series Manhunt, where he was a hunter trying to gun down contestants.
Oh, so that's why he got "You Can't See Me" gimmick.
Well, he did miss a lot. I remember that.
Well, I'm sure he was just as passionate about that as he is about wrestling. You know, putting in about 10% effort. All right, so back to TNA. TNA had around 2,500 fans at a 9,000-seat arena in Nashville on Sunday night for the Lockdown pay-per-view. TNA officials were reportedly disappointed with crowd reactions throughout the night. I think that's the biggest understatement of the year. The segment between Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair went longer than planned to cause the remaining matches on the card to get less time. Hogan reportedly went longer than he was on his part of the segment.
If I may, well, surprise, surprise, surprise.
Okay, when they say transformation, do they mean A, Dixie Carter resigns as the owner, or B, Dixie Carter actually graduates from the business class?
I'm not sure. But what I do know is that this is a terrible, 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 terrible showing for them. And Scott Steiner on Twitter, being the Lord and Savior of TNA, was commenting about this and saying that the majority of the pay-per-view was probably papered, which wouldn't surprise me.
Well, certainly. All I can really say is they better be serious this time when it comes to change. Nothing like new sets, new logo, new title, belt, whatever you want to call it. We've said it for years. There's really only one thing that really has to change, and if that's what changes, then maybe they'll have a shot.
Well, the only change I'm going to accept is Dixie Carter being out of there, because she obviously cannot run a company worth of crap.
Well, if you would realize, Dixie Carter, if you had listened last week, Dixie Carter is not running the day-to-day operations. It is her mother, actually, that is running the day-to-day operations.
Oh, hell.
Yeah, but apparently she had announced that sometime this week that after meeting with Spike officials, we mentioned last week they came to a deal and everything. Apparently they're going to be including format changes and new elements and everything, and apparently a very conscious decision to focus on young talent. Although we've heard that one for the past 5 years, and that's basically what I'm getting at. You've got Lockdown, which didn't have a very good showing in Nashville, which is where they used to run. You have Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair having a segment, which is really just going to lead to Hogan versus Flair, isn't it? And I'm going to say this now, and I'm going to mean it. Nobody cares about Hulk Hogan versus Ric Flair in this environment.
What's that gonna do when the largest arms in the world run wild on you?
Apparently the fans in TNA decided to run away, because, oh my god, the TNA rating this week. Let me tell you something, brother.
Certainly, I mean, they just have to focus on being the younger talent, that's great, but they just, like I said, if Flair and Hogan are really going to have a storyline, that's the complete opposite.
Well, there's no best ass.
Speaking of the complete opposite, Evolve had to change their lineup to Evolve 11 night pay-per-view because Scott Reed and AR Fox were unable to get into Canada. Bobby Fish and Cheech were also scheduled but did not appear. Wrestlers that appeared on the card unadvertised included Adam Page, Mike Rollins, the relations of Seth Rollins, Jake Manning, Drew Gulak, and Ashley Six, and MK McKinnon. The matches were affected were Johnny Gargano versus AR Fox and The Scene versus Super Smash Brothers. Gargano was added to the Chuck Taylor versus Samurai Day Soul match, which became a three-way elimination. Super Smash Brothers fought Chuck Taylor's new stable of Jake Manning and Drew Gulak. Caleb Conley of The Scene was in a singles match with Larry Dallas and Lee, following him to ringside. Speaking of Larry Dallas, he'll be going on tour with the Dragon Gate promotion in Japan for 3 months, from April 26th till July 26th. Is currently seen and has worked in both Evolve and DGUSA for several years. Dallas will manage the Mad Blankly faction, which featuring BXB Hulk and Akira Tozawa. Let me tell you something about Scott Reed. I know the guy, and he's fucking awesome. So I'm if it's the same Scott Reed that I know, great, and I'm so happy for him. To huge push in DGUSA.
It's Mad Blanky, by the way, not Blanky.
Blanky, sorry about that.
A blank.
Yes, a term they
I did happen to catch the $2 DG pay-per-view over WrestleMania weekend, and, I understand why they do it. It's a little silly that they've kind of got things going on in both Dragon Gate and Evolve, rather than just, calling it the one promotion. But yeah, there's some good action, particularly Samurai Del Sol, who kind of came out of nowhere. Apparently he's been working in Mexico for years, and that's why he's such a breakout. But nobody's ever heard of him or anything, so that's why he's such a breakout persona.
Is he the guy that was rumored a couple weeks back for the WrestleMania weekend?
I suppose. I can't really think of what other luchador star that they had on the show, unless you count Tommy Dreamer.
Yes, luchador extraordinaire.
Tacos and burritos. Well, going across the pond, former British heavyweight champion and one of Scotland's top wrestling stars, Colin McKay, known on the scene as the Highlander, was arrested at his home on indecency charges and amid allegations of sex abuse against children, unfortunately. He has made no plea in the case, but is suspected of having inappropriate text and phone conversations with teenage boys aged 13 to 16 and causing at least 2 of them to take part in explicit sexual activity. McKay trained current WWE star Drew McIntyre and is thought to have coached hundreds of young wrestlers over the years. So that's no good when you hear things of this nature.
I bet he was coached by Lawler.
I recently saw that about Lawler. Oh god, that was terrible. But yeah, some pretty bad news coming out of Scotland. I'm not happy about that at all. Obviously, this guy should be put away if he's, touching little boys.
And this is an environment that kind of not allows, but or propagates, but an environment that kind of
the line is blurry.
That it makes, I don't know the word, but it makes it easier for you have young guys, especially in Europe where they train younger, 16 and such. Young guys who want to show ring boys. I think they still have over there, more prevalent over there. And you're being mentored. It's like anything else, you're being mentored and you trust a guy, and it can turn into that if they want it to. So one of the secrets that shouldn't be kept secret.
Speaking of a secret, the current TNA X Division champion and former ROH champion Austin Aries recently spoke with Sports 5 in the UK. During the interview, we discussed the current Ring of Honor product, and here's what he had to say. I'll be really honest with you, the Ring of Honor today is not like anything of Ring of Honor that the likes of CM Punk, Daniel Bryan, and myself came from. Obviously, they are still operating under the same name, but the company has changed so much over the years, it's really a shell of its former self in terms of vision and thought process. The original Ring of Honor and Ring of Honor today are two completely different things, which I have to agree with. I'd like to call it Smoky Mountain of Honor, which is terribly surprising because our beloved Jim Cornette is running the show. There's no money in Ring of Honor, and that means they will only be able to secure talent for a certain amount of time before they move somewhere else. Not surprising, considering recently Jay Briscoe tweeted to John Laurinaitis that there's going to be a show coming up in June that's going to be 20 minutes outside of their house, and they have nothing planned for the day, so they could potentially work something out. My question to you is this. What do you feel about these comments from Austin Aries?
Well, first of all, I don't know if I necessarily lump Aries in with the likes of CM Punk and Daniel Bryan, or even, Zoe and Homicide and all those guys. Not to discredit Aries and his sort of, his persona, but, I just wouldn't say he's quite up there. But it's, the current Ring of Honor, there are a lot of guys with a lot of talent, a lot of stamina, a lot of, agility and such, but when it comes to personality, that's probably the biggest thing lacking. I mean, sure, you have the thing with Kevin Steen, and that's actually pretty interesting, but when it comes to guys like I've gone back and been watching these episodes of Ring of Honor on TV, and even I sometimes had trouble remembering, which one's Eddie Edwards, which one's Roderick Strong, which one's Davey Richards. So there could be more of a presence.
Okay, I'll give you a hint, okay? Davey Richards is the one with the mouthpiece.
That's
I thought that
Roderick Strong. That's actually Roderick Strong, and it's Roderick
you see?
Richards. See, exactly. We all get confused here.
I mean, I know they are, but it's...
No, it's just, I think, to get to the point, quickly, I think the thing is that it's just the nature of things, I mean, sorry, let me just, a little bit.
You're okay, go ahead.
Okay. It's just the nature of things is that, CM Punk moved to WWE, Daniel Bryan did the same, and let's even go back to like Kings of Wrestling, and both, Claudio Castagnoli, now known as Antonio Cesaro, and then, Chris Hero, now known as Cassius Ohno, they're all in WWE one form or the other. Like even Tyler Black, Seth Rollins. So, it's just the nature of things. So, I think Ring of Honor, they just gotta work with what they have. Unfortunate, but just how it is.
Yeah, I mean, they certainly bring us, I would say, better competition on a regular basis than perhaps even, certainly WWE and perhaps even TNA. But again, when you're nationally syndicated and everything, to get the kind of big ratings and the big bucks, you kind of have to be more of a total package, or at least attract somebody with the big bucks. But like I said, they do have Kevin Steen and things like that. But otherwise, the undercard is pretty interchangeable.
I think that's why they say, because they know they have limitations. They can't expand way too much because we'll lose interest with the current situation that they have.
Perhaps, but they've always been a good breeding ground for good talent, which can perhaps be used better somewhere else, and that's not necessarily a business standpoint, but you can't discredit what they've been doing.
It's exactly what Austin Aries is implying. And speaking of implying, Bobby Lashley was recently on MLW.com radio and spoke about taking a professional fight. Here's what he had to say. I think I might take a boxing match. I've been offered a boxing match. I've been doing a lot of boxing. I'm trying to be doors as possible. I really like boxing. I've been fortunate enough to work in some really cool boxing coaches. I've been approached and they didn't turn out away. One of my boxing instructors sent me down to Vegas to train with the famed trainer Eddie Mustafa. Eddie said that he'd have me ready for my first match in 2 months and would have me ready for a title shot in a year or a year and a half. Bobby Lashley spanning out into boxing. Oh boy.
Question: How long was it? How long was his MMA career? Just out of curiosity.
Couple years.
Okay, good. So it's I thought because I only seen him in Strike Force and that was about it. And we all know about what happened with Strike Force, but I didn't see him. I haven't really seen him that much fighting for the most part. But good for him if he wants to try if he wants to venture out into boxing as well. We need more marquee boxers nowadays. Because I am kind of a boxing fan myself, so.
I think Lashley should take whatever he can get at this point because WWE's going to take him back. I don't think TNA is interested in him. He doesn't fit very well in places like Ring of Honor. I think his best bet, to be quite honest, is to stick with Inoki in the IGF, since Inoki does have such a fetish for MMA guys and is off his rocker and rich and everything. But either that or make a call and become a doorman at Trump Tower or something.
Which wouldn't surprise me if he ended up there.
But a boxing match, that's it's a different element. It really depends on who he faces. I mean, could probably beat a small guy, but an experienced boxer maybe not. Speaking of branching out, in a recent interview, Tito Ortiz mentioned the possibility of going to WWE after his UFC career is done. He said he's got a lot of options. He's seen Brock go back, and that's something he may entertain, do some, quote, theatrical entertainment, as they call it. Ortiz, of course, previously was involved with TNA in a match at a pay-per-view some years back. They're very different elements. You can't just start having. I think it would be easier for wrestlers to go into MMA than it would be for MMA guys to go into wrestling, because they're very different elements. You've got to have a lot of stamina and all that jazz. And one of the big reasons Lesnar said he quit way back when was because of the travel. The travel was just so extensive and stressful.
Ken Shamrock.
I was gonna say, just Tito Ortiz. The man's all talk, no, he doesn't really show it that much. So it's he'll fit perfectly in if he just insults people and just takes a job for for mid-carder people just to get elevated to the next level or something like that. Other than that, the guy's just all talk for me.
I want Daniel Bryan to just destroy him. I never liked Tito Ortiz that much, and I do not like him now.
It would not surprise me if Tito Ortiz jumped over to the WWE, considering the large amount of ego that he carries. However, he would ask for a ridiculous amount of money, and the WWE would work with him maybe once, and maybe once for a WrestleMania thing, and he would job. And it would be funny. Speaking of things that aren't funny, Scott Hall's ex-wife, Anna Hall, said she wasn't surprised by his arrest on charges of choking his husband. Diana told the Charleston Post and Courier that she believes the charges that the girlfriend's attorney have claimed of a peaceful and amicable relationship is a lie. Quote, this relationship is not peaceful and amicable, but sick, unhealthy, disturbed, disgusting, unstable, violent, and enabling, just to name a few. She said. I completely did this to her, and as he tried to do it to me in the past and to others, it's deplorable. It's a sick, codependent, abusive relationship of major proportions that need to be seriously addressed, not schmoozed over so that the sickness can continue. And Hall denies the charges. This is reported by TMZ, by the way. I'm not surprised. Diana is coming out and saying that she's not surprised because, well, I mean, it's Scott Hall we're talking about here, and, Scott, the continued downfall of Scott Hall is just, something deplorable, to be completely honest, and I, once again, hope that Scott will, do something to not completely fuck himself so that he can maybe, get into the WWE Hall of Fame and retire somewhere in some peaceful little pagoda, but, as the days go on, I believe that is not going to be the case.
Graham,
Yes?
remember the time when Scott Hall said he's straight edge?
Nope. I don't remember it at all.
Me neither! Look, we talked about Scott Edge in our last podcast, and whatever we say, whatever good thing we wish on Scott Hall, it's not gonna happen. I said the same thing, like, I wish Scott Hall, the recovery and, get his act together. Last year, Scott Edge, yeah, I know, huh? Look, I said the thing last year, and as we know, didn't happen, so I got nothing to say to him.
Personally, and I think I might have even said this last week, I think the best for Hall at this point is jail. And I'm serious about that, because maybe if he has his freedom taken away, and, there's rehab, but then there's actual prison. And
So you're proposing the Pat Patterson anal justice system. Am I correct on this one?
Well, not quite. No, I'm just saying, there's a difference between, not being able to control your demons and then, not having a choice in the matter, really. And, it could be the thing it's basically the only thing that hasn't really happened to him yet. He's lost friends and family and dignity and money and all of this and that and health. So, if he loses his freedom, maybe that'll be and, he's not getting any younger. So, Anywho, speaking of unpleasant things, Canadian alternative rock band Our Lady Peace discussed recently to the Huffington Post and one of John Chapman on how they've had to retire Chris Benoit's WWE theme song entitled Whatever, altogether for obvious reasons. The tragedy that took place 5 years ago. The guitarist Steve Malzar says, it's a shame because that song rocks, but, it is what it is, basically. And it makes sense.
I thought this was just an interesting little bit because, Our Lady Peace is one of those bands that came out, in the mid-90s to late 90s, and, we're pretty kick-ass. And the song itself is awesome. I mean, I love that song. The Chris Benoit side there. But, I can completely understand. I just thought it was really interesting that the effects of the Chris Benoit tragedy, spreads out like it does. And this is just one of those little ripples that, we're seeing here today, even 5 years later.
Well, what you would kind of think that them playing that song in concerts and stuff would be equivalent to the Beatles going out and playing Helter Skelter in concerts after the whole Manson thing.
Well, it's like certain songs being taken off the air after 9/11 and certain other things. It's the kind of thing that, there's things like that where, you play the song Jump because of 9/11, but at least not for a while, but, here's a song that was, in fact, directly tied to Benoit, and he used it hundreds of times, and so, it's unfortunate, but it makes sense, and it's a respect thing. As Sting said, I appear in the rafters, but I haven't, zip-lined down the rafters because after the whole Owen Hart thing, I just felt it wasn't really appropriate.
Read an article recently that, Mr. T stopped wearing his gold after, the Hurricane Katrina thing out of respect for them because it was, how they didn't have they didn't have anything, and he was like, well, I guess it's disrespectful for me to, flaunt my jewelry. Speaking of things that might be eerily disrespectful, The brother of the man who was hospitalized when Hulk Hogan's son Nick crashed his car in 2007 has died of injuries from the car accident we reported a couple weeks ago. TMZ reports that Michael Graziano, the brother of John Graziano, was a passenger in a Volvo that crashed into the back of a dump truck on April 3rd in Florida. Michael was not wearing a seatbelt, much like John wasn't in the Hogan accident. Michael was rushed to the hospital and remained in critical condition for several days before dying Friday of injuries from the crash. Cause is still under investigations, though no charges have been filed against the driver as of yet. The reason why this is news is because it's Michael Graziano, the brother of John Graziano, who Nick Hogan paralyzed. And the reason why I want to bring this up is because it's just completely freaky. 5 years to the day on the same highway and in nearly the same spot, 5 years to the day, John's brother Michael gets into a car accident and it's just kind of creepy. Thoughts?
I wanted to make a bad joke, but I just can't. Only thing I can say is I wish it if this was a video podcast, my jaw would be on the ground, just in shock of all the eerie coincidence of this event.
Just a commentary again. Wear your seatbelt. Don't screw around when you're driving. Things like this can and do happen. And and I don't want to sound like I'm victim blaming or anything, but Graziano. Not this Graziano, but the one that was with Nick. It wasn't like, even though Nick was the one driving, it's not like he, it was his decision to be in the car, and I don't believe there was any indication that he was, trying to get out of the car or anything. You know what I mean?
Right.
All right. Saying, don't, make smart decisions, obviously.
Just remember, folks, don't drink and drive, and don't drink in excess. Chris Jericho taught you that one. All right,
always wear your seatbelt.
Always wear your seatbelt. All right, so
shit if it's the law, just don't be retarded.
All right, so now it is time for our second segment, and this round will go for 15 minutes, and this is our 15-minute time limit. Joining us right now is our very, 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 very special guest, the one, the only, the Net Jester.
Oh, am I on? Am I on? It's my time? Am I dressed right? How's my face look? Is the camera ready?
And so this segment is titled "Legitimacy in Wrestling." What makes wrestling legit for you? This past couple weeks, we've seen the return of Brock Lesnar, a UFC heavyweight champion in a sport that's not worked. Basically, Brock Lesnar was a legitimate heavyweight champion and the WWE Undisputed Champion at one point or another. John Laurinaitis brought him back into the WWE, and he was claiming that he wanted to bring a bit more legitimacy. This week on Raw, we saw John Cena be defeated by Lord Tensai, he's being booked as a legitimate badass from Japan who went over there, studied the craft, fell in love with Japan, and came back to kick some ass. Looking strong, looking great, and John Cena, going down the tubes, where he's seen more as a fruity pebble and a illegitimate, boring Superman kind of character. In wrestling, the goal of wrestling is to tell a story and to suspend our disbelief. What I'm asking the panel this week is how you feel about professional wrestling and what makes it legitimate for you. What makes it the thing that makes you suspend your disbelief and to say, this is no longer a contest about if it's fake and rigged and they're in the back and they talk, but, two people coming together and having a bout that you believe 100% is, happening real in front of your face. Anybody can start really and anybody can join in.
Can I start?
Go for it.
Okay. I want to say, when it comes to small time, I don't know if it counts, but small time independent wrestling, because there have few times where these guys get hit so hard that they just start bleeding. Like, I remember back in 2009, I believe, it was PWG, Frontier Sans Guerrera, and it was ironically Bryan Danielson's last match before he jumped ship to WWE, and he was fighting against Chris Hero for PWG Heavyweight Championship. And at one he would Brian Danielson would do the from the apron to the floor dive, right? And what happens is that he did a dive, but he would pick up the chair and just toss it at his face, and you could see him bust it open. And not surprisingly, that's the last time I've seen a man get busted open in the middle of the ring. And what winds up happening is, couple years later, last year's December, American Wolf, Eddie Edwards and Davey Richards versus Super Smash Brothers. Play Uno and Stupy. Long story short, Eddie got his nose busted. Like, you could see a couple blood drops on the apron. So I would consider, what's up?
So you're saying that legitimate shots and legitimately being busted open makes it real for you.
Sometimes, yeah.
Okay, cool. What about you?
Well, I think he's saying more on it. Doesn't necessarily have to be blood and weapons and stiff shots and such, but the visual cues. This. I mean, well, let's since we're talking about legitimacy, let's talk in terms. This is a performance, obviously. This is that's not to discredit the athleticism, but this is a performance, and any good performance is heightened by visual cues. I mean, there's special effects in movies. There's certain things they do even on stages to make it seem not even more realistic, but just more flashy. And I think that that Lion King show on Broadway have like the animals and things. It's these elaborate puppets and such, and you can see the people obviously, but the fact that the costumes and you kind of when they're bobbing around and sort of like 10 guys basically cheering at once, it's impressive. So what makes it legitimate is that it is, for me anyway, I would say it's the passion, because there's passion in anything you really do, be it sports or theater or performing, anything of that nature. A lot of people don't necessarily realize what these guys do, even on the independent scene. We mentioned the travel with Lesnar, and that's in addition to keeping yourself at a certain condition, eating a certain way, looking a certain way, doing the things that to achieve those things, working out, tanning, and such. Of course, like I said, in performance, you can argue that God knows we argue about how good the performance was on a regular basis, but when it comes to things like even something that was pretty panned, like James storming Rude out of the cage to win the match, something like that. When it comes to legitimacy, I think you have to factor in the fact that obviously they're trying to tell a story and make a certain point in doing these things. So, I would say that's what legitimacy is. Obviously, the whole Brock Lesnar legitimacy thing is a plot in the story to try to get people upset, saying, obviously MMA, which is let's just say for the most part unscripted. It is an actual physical contest that isn't a performance, but at the same time, there's a lot of competition in anything you do. Even though they're performing, they're competing for the right to perform and how and when.
Right. Somebody else's opinion on this. Yankum, what about you?
What makes it legitimate for me? I'm not a douchebag. I don't have to have any. And this isn't to, insult the other esteemed panelists, but I don't need anything to legitimize it for me any more than I need, anything special to happen on 24 to legitimize Jack Bauer kicking some terrorist ass, or Buffy stabbing vampires in the heart with a stake, or, anything like that. To me, it's just what you do, and your disbelief, and you don't look at it, as, this is fake. I know they're plotting this in the back and they're doing this and stuff. I mean, yeah, I do that outside of the show and, here, obviously, and, on the boards. But when I'm watching the show, I'm not watching it as, the smart guy, analyzing that type of thing. I'm just looking at it and going, who's kicking whose ass, and Is the guy I'm rooting for winning?
Well, for me, what legitimizes wrestling for me is, well, I'm reminded of, of the shoot that everybody heard, and that, when CM Punk said that shoot, and when he said all those things during that shoot, it sort of legitimized it. It's like, it was no about, like, there was no script, and the minute you take away that script, it ceases to be a show, and you really start getting to more of what the competition is going to be about. For me, it's like, Stan's correct. That was correct. You can show it, but I don't think showing blood would be anything. I think, yeah, you get around by doing stuff you can get around stuff like this because you can get around by doing like some theatrical stuff, you can get around by doing some theatrical stuff. But when you take away the script, or when you take the disbelief, and then you start a more real-life situation, I think that's when you start seeing things more legit to me.
And that's the long and the short of it right there. Legitimacy is what you make of it. Now to me, I'm a fun guy. Hell, it's practically in my handle. I have, watch TV, you suspend, and you have fun. You see who's wrestling a good match, who's not wrestling a good match, who obviously loves what they're doing, who's coming back just for a paycheck, Rocky, and who is just working their ass off 24/7. See, it comes to us not even from a place inside. Legitimacy is how the performers perform. If they perform great, you've got your wrestling moments that'll live forever in your memory and your soul and your heart. And if it's bad, then we've got WrestleMania 9. And the less said about that, the better.
That's a really good point. Hey, Vassar, what do you think?
For me, it's just the things that seem more believable than anything. It's times when something will happen and you can't tell if it was actually supposed to happen or not. Something that's just so, different from just the standard, people going through the just going through their movements or move sets or what have you. It's just those times where it feels like the two people in the ring actually aren't out to really put on a show as much as they actually have legitimate heat and they want to prove the better man.
I think legitimacy has to do with those moments that we look for as humans, which are, I have a theory, basically, and the theory is, we pay for honesty. We pay our hard-earned money to see something that we can believe in, whether it be a movie or a video game or, a book or anything like that.
A naked lady.
Yes, a naked lady. If you believe, if it makes you believe that, you're the most special person in the whole world in that moment and she's collecting $50 for you for a hand job, how less significant is that than it is to, say, for example, have somebody watch a CM Punk match, for example. I think at the end of the day, what the point of this is the fact that we're all sitting here and we all have vastly different opinions and vastly different, backgrounds. But what brings us together is the fact that what we're looking on the television and what we see is real. And we try to validate that between ourselves and, the rest of the world, the whole, philosophical, what's the word I'm looking for? Existential belief that, reality is perspective and our reality doesn't not exist when we close our eyes and then wake up. And what we have to realize, and that doesn't just apply physically, that applies mentally too with our brains. Because like what Yankob said, you have to go into wrestling and you have to suspend your disbelief just as much as you have to do that with Jack Bauer, or Dana and Scully and Fox and in the X-Files, for example. Because David Duchovny isn't really an FBI agent. He's David Duchovny. He's an actor. half you cringing. It's not even real. And that's the whole point here. And one segment before we end this, that really stood out to me once was when Randy Orton RKO'd, Evan Bourne out of the airport. You knew that day those two practiced that move every second they could. And you knew that, that was a completely planned spot, that they knew exactly what they were doing, and to present to you as a fan that this is something cool that they've done. In my opinion, that was the best RKO ever. And it was the fact that it was just such an awesome moment, and what really did it for me was not the fact that it was, that we knew that it was rigged, but in the fact that I looked at it, I knew it was rigged, and I popped. I still popped for it, and I'm pretty sure everybody in this room did. Alright, so with that being said, that is the time, and,
Can I just say one last thing just quickly?
quickly.
Yeah, I found it a little bit hilarious that Omega would compare wrestling to, Lion King, the musical, and I'm thinking, okay, I want to see Mufasa powerbomb Scar.
That'd be really interesting. I know, right? Alright, so let's move on from the 15-minute time limit, and we're going to go right into our next segment, which is kayfabe issues. Yankum, would you like to take over the reins for this one?
How about, would you like to shut your whore mouth when you're talking to me? Because it's time for kayfabe issues, the best part of the show. That's right. Don't you talk over me. We're going to kick it off with Striker's grading chart of excellence. This is pretty self-explanatory. I'm going to give you a topic, and you are going to assign a letter grade to it. Obviously, A+ through F-, A+ being the best, F- being super fail, and we'll move it up and down the list here. So we're going to kick it off with Ramsey's. Can you give us a letter grade for the state of the mid-card titles?
Man. Just, they're doing stuff with it. That's the good news, but I just really can't take them seriously, so I gotta give it like at least a D. I get a D for effort at least.
D for effort. Not very good. Net Jester. Can you give us a letter grade for the state of the mid-card titles?
Oh, I know. Especially with the card title right about now, when you have so-called champions like Big Show and who's got the US? Santino. Yeah, I should have. Sorry, but I would say D+, C-.
All right, Outlaw.
You know what? I'm gonna be a little bit left and go C- flat, just cause I like what they're doing with. Okay, I like what they're doing with Santino. Okay, they're at least giving him something to work with. I wish they would just involve other mid carders, like instead of feeding them to Lord Tenzai, poor Alex Riley and Yoshitatsu. So,
all right, and Vassar.
Big bad C-.
Wow, short and concise. Gunner.
Basically, it's I give a B actually to the U.S. title and an F to the Intercontinental title because they've done nothing with it since Big Show won, except for make fun of Cody Rhodes. Cody needs to move on to the mid card, needs to move on to the upper mid card, and Big Show needs to feud with the title with somebody else. So I'm gonna give that an F, and that averages out to about a C-.
All right, and Omega BR.
I'm just gonna say C because they don't ignore them, but it's kind of like a bell curve of when they actually acknowledge them and base a feud mostly on the title. I mean, it's sort of a bet on the title, but not really. Kind of like with Cody and Show, it's more about Show and Mania and embarrassment and all that.
And I'm going to give it a C because I do like the whole Santino thing. There is some potential with the Big Show having the IC title if they actually do something with it. And it could have been a little C+, except for the tag team titles, which I will continue to vetch about until they actually have a division. Moving on, we're at John Cena's 2012 so far. So Ramsey, if you could give us a letter grade for John Cena's 2012 so far.
Again, I gotta give us a D plus, a C minus D plus. Because I mean, I'm just giving it for effort again. Because anytime I see John Cena, it infuriates me so much whenever I see him. The biggest example of this is when Brock Lesnar came out and he didn't like give this shot. He didn't do any. He essentially no-sold his appearance.
That is worrisome. I was a little worrisome during the Tensai match with Cena. I was afraid they were going to get into a no-sell contest, and nobody wins those. Net Jester, your letter grade for John Cena's 2012 so far?
Believe it or not, if we're going from total kayfabe here, I believe he's had a heck of a year. The build-up to WrestleMania was amazing, and I still contend that even though it was happening in The Rock's hometown of Miami, Florida, there still was just a little bit of disbelief or doubt whether The Rock would pull it out and whether we'd have another LOL Cena wins, top face in the company, all that good crap. But my mind, Cena's not having a bad year so far, so I'll rate it as just a plain old B. Whether he goes from here with Brock Lesnar is anybody's guess.
And Outlaw.
You know what? I'm going to give it a B plus because this is a step-by-step development of this character. And I think the Kane with his, heat-mongering was step one. And I'm sure we talked about this. And step two was The Rock. Now step three, Brock Lesnar. And this just keeps getting more interesting because the last Raw, which was, I think it was that was it. The last Raw I saw, it's just like, you just see Cena getting more angrier, bit by bit. I know. I know. I'm thinking like, wow, Cena is getting a little bit agitated. So I sense a little bit of character development here. Where this goes, no one knows. So, C plus.
Character development.
I know.
Pick one.
I know.
Vassar, your letter grade for John Cena's 2012 thus far.
C plus, as it seems like they might actually be doing something with him finally and making him lose, so he has to change to get better again.
And
Yeah, I think I probably deserve that one.
That wasn't for you, it's actually for Cena's year because he's jobbing out more than Al Snow did when he was with the company. Kayfabe wise, he gets an F. Character wise, he gets a C.
and Omega Beyond.
Oh, I don't know. 2 or 3 weeks after WrestleMania so far, and quite interesting. I think I'm going to give him a cautious, perhaps generous B, because he still does what he does, and he does it pretty well. And the fact that I see interesting things for Cena with all these, actual losses, the dents in the armor, the exposure, if you will. So far it hasn't been, amazing, but there are good things on the horizon.
And I'm giving it a C because everything Cena does is mediocre. The number 3 on the list here, Scott Steiner's Twitter rants. Please, if you could get us a letter grade for Scott Steiner's Twitter rants.
Is there anything higher than any plus?
Well, let me tell you, you take your 64% grade, okay, and you take my 33% and 2/3 grade plus my extra 57% for being a genetic freak, and you get the Steiner grade.
Yeah, I was fine with that. Realistically, if I was going to give it a grade, yeah, A plus. But yeah, it deserves more than that. It's always like I always read it A, and B. He is the most intriguing man in wrestling right now. I swear to God, I never thought I'd say that in a million years. That this crazy screaming guy would be would be the greatest thing to happen in wrestling.
Well, he's definitely being entertaining and doing us all an egg. Net Jester, your grade for Scott Steiner's Twitter rants. Oh,
Well,
yeah,
know, if you take 80% of Scott Steiner, if you take 80% of Scott Steiner's telephone and you divide it by 60% of Scott Steiner's bulbage, and I mean the bulb that goes off over his head when he thinks, and you divide it by 25% of Scott Steiner's muscles, you would come to an eventual grade of, as the man said himself, Big Bad Booty Daddy. I'd say he's got a solid B plus going so far.
Can I get a butter gunner? Thank you. Minus 9 million points to Net Jester for stealing my joke less than 10 seconds after I made it. Outlaw, your letter grade for Scott Steiner's Twitter rants.
I will give it F for fantastic. I think Rant is covered. This guy, crazy as it may sound, is the most interesting wrestler right now to follow. On the same note, I also get S. Thank you.
This show just keeps getting better and better.
Oh yeah!
Vassar,
He's been in the danger zone.
your letter grade for the Scott Steiner Twitter rants.
An A plus, because it is hilarious to read every single last one of these.
Indeed. And Gunner, I know you've got something hilarious planned for this one.
I'm doing him in! I gotta dumb myself down!
And he's got to dump himself down to actually understand TNA to be able to tweet it to us about how much it sucks. Scott Steiner is trying to save TNA, which is really, really interesting. A plus.
Yes, I'm surprised he has any sense to them at all. Omega BR.
I suppose an A, because they've both been entertaining and quite poignant. Although, like I said, I don't necessarily see what they're going to accomplish other than, entertaining us. But, I do know that he got Garrett Bischoff to respond, so that's great.
You've got Garrett, Eric, and Hulk Hogan have all responded.
So basically, if they weren't bothered by it, they would have just said nothing and let it stand.
Exactly.
And keep in mind, Garrett Bischoff is the future of the wrestling business. Moving along, the next one here is David Otunga's match with Santino on Raw. Ramsey is.
I give it a. It was really entertaining. It just really went one ear to the other for the most part. I watched this just earlier this afternoon, just to pet myself, because I recorded Raw on my DVR, and I was like, I watched most of it, but just like I can't remember with the life of me any spots. But I remember enjoying it. That's why I give it a, because I was like, I remember enjoying it, but I don't remember anything spectacular in particular.
And what?
Net Jester.
An impassioned introduction. Thank you, Kimosabe. But, let me just put it to you like this. This match reminded me of Chinese food because a half an hour after see it, I want some freaking more Santino. I liked it. I liked it a lot. I don't know what much more to say. I give this one a solid A minus. Couple of things I wasn't hot about, but that was slaying the way of David Otunga.
And Outlaw.
I had no idea Santino was Chinese food. But anyways, I'm gonna give it B, solid B, because it was good. Don't get me wrong. I watched it. It was good. I liked it, but for the life of me, I cannot remember anything spectacular from it. So, there you have it.
And Vassar.
I will give it a B plus for the fact that Otunga was one of the few people we've ever seen stop Santino on tracks with the split.
Actually, that spot has been done. Thanks for trying. Gonna.
David gets a D for not being able to pin Santino Marella. His pin I've seen on Raw and will surely be on Botchamania.
And finally,
Yeah, I'm gonna have to give it a D because, I mean, alright, so far, these guys have faced each other numerous times in the past month or two, and it hasn't been bad or anything, but, this match, obviously, there were a few botches, there was nothing that special about it. And Otunga had sold the Cobra string. It's just, it kind of exposes a lot of their weaknesses, particularly Otunga, who, he's developed a nice character, and he's got a heck of a physique, obviously, but he's still not a ring technician, so when his weaknesses are there, they're pretty bad.
and I'm going to put this one right down the middle and give it a C. I didn't even remember this match happened at all until I saw it on the format. So, moving along, number 5, the Bischoff storyline, Ramsey, a 2 F minus, somewhere in there, your grade.
F, because I hate these people so much. I hate Garrett. I hate Eric. I hate everyone. God, I want to jump out. I said this on my podcast. I want to jump out the window. I want to just jump out my roof whenever I have to see these people. So F.
And Net Dresser.
Believe it or not, slowly but surely, sorry, a little technical difficulty, Garrett Bischoff is slowly growing on me. He's growing on me like mold, but he's growing on me. If he is the future of the company, yeah, then we're looking at a long gestation period. But there are slight glimmers, just from time to time, where he's looking, like he can actually, make his dad seem like a legitimate contender with throne. So, yeah, I'd say D minus, but if he does some extra credit work, it could build his grade up fast.
All right, and Al?
I'm gonna give it S. Get this shit out of my TV already.
Best grade ever. Bassett.
1,004 F minuses.
And Gunner.
Fucking bullshit!
Wow, somebody loves this new soundboard.
I give it an F.
And Omega R.
I give it a D minus because it did manage to, I mean, realistically, it did give us a couple of matches, and, it wasn't completely illogical or anything, it was just stupid.
Oh, I will change my grade to a D minus because it got Eric Bischoff off of television for 3 weeks.
Oh,
at the very least.
Always finding the silver lining. I give it a W for who gives a shit, because nobody really wants TNA. Anyhow, all you have to do is look at the ratings. And we're going to go ahead and call this one the final one, because we're running out of time. Daniel Bryan's incredible ability to stay positive. I already know what you're all going to say. Ramses?
I give it an A for yes, 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 yes.
Netchester?
Did you know I have Russian in my family? Da, 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 da.
That was lame. I'm assuming it was an A, though. Outlaw?
Muy bueno, C, 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 C.
Much better, thank you. I'm also assuming that was an A. Vassar?
A plus for yes, yes, yes.
Gonna?
Wow, hysterical.
And Net Jester for the final time, it is Brian, not Brian. Thank you. Omega BR!
I'm going to give it a Y. For why would you ask such a question, you silly person?
Who did?
And I'm gonna give it an E for epic. And finally, we're going to do a quick mock draft. You will dive the WWE roster in the chat. We'll go ahead and click that. And we will start from the top with Omega BR and work our way down. So Omega, move 3 guys and 1 diva that will benefit from switching brands.
Well, I would move, I suppose I would move, Cameron Lynn to, Laurinaitis' office, so she'll get a better position in the company.
But that...
Although we all know it's already been there. Seriously though, I don't necessarily think the branding matters that much. I mean, everybody appears on both shows anyway, even though it's not a quote unquote super show, but, really I would say, I don't know, I'm trying to think of divas first, and really, the thing about the divas, again, it's not about branding, it's about actually having to do something. I guess if AJ is technically on, actually, I'm gonna go with a bold choice. I'm gonna move Caitlyn from NXT to either Raw or SmackDown because she is, I mean, she's not the best in the ring, but, so what? None of them really are, so she is one of the more, likable and watchable divas. I think she could find a nice niche on one of the brands. Moving persons. Almost the same thing. Some guys from it's like, I mean, anybody benefits, I think, from being on Raw. Although if you're on SmackDown, you have more of a chance to, well, as I'm thinking about it here, as I say it, it's almost more beneficial to be on SmackDown because you have the chance to appear on Raw anyway. And on SmackDown, it's a more of a relaxed environment and all that. Raw, of course, the flagship show, but there's more pressure, there's more competition. So, maybe move some of I would almost say guys like, just to throw out some names, Ziggler, Swagger, maybe even Miz, especially at this point. Miz, I think, would do better on SmackDown, where he can be more of a bigger fish in a smaller pond. And, same with guys like Ziggler and Swagger, not that I should necessarily break those up. Those two ain't just yet, but there are a lot of, again, going back to my point from last week, a lot of the guys who were in the the big tag team match at WrestleMania, a lot of those guys aren't really doing anything, and I think you have more of a chance to shine on SmackDown as it is, so we'll leave it at that.
And Gunner.
Well, I think that Tamina would do a great move over to Raw. Christian and Cody Rhodes make the jump to Raw as well, and to SmackDown, I would actually send Lord Tensai. I believe that his appearance and gimmick and whatnot would be much better suited over on the Blue brand. Hey, what's the difference between Omega BR and Crow?
I don't know. What is this?
Bro, what's the difference?
At least the Crow shits on the side of the fence.
Well, that's what happens when you make me go first. I don't.
And that.
I would move, starting off with the diva, I want to move Eve.
You can also eat those.
Yes, I want to see Eve move to SmackDown so she can get off of my Raw. T-Rex also go to SmackDown so he can actually get some airtime once in a while that's not just a couple seconds here or there. Move Henry on over to Raw since, well, he's there most of the time anyways, but he's still part of the SmackDown brand. And finally, move Cole the fuck off my TV.
Well, that'll never happen. Well, at least not the cool thing. Outlaw, your picks?
Okay, so first thing first, Clinical and Epico to because they are not doing shit with that tag team champion they have Raw. So better give it to SmackDown where it would have a little bit more competition. And also, from Raw, I am going to move, Evan Bourne to SmackDown because while he stayed on the Raw, he messed up a lot. I think change of scenery or the ring will give him a fresh start. Now, on to the, the Divas. Yeah, right. Divas, you know what? I really don't want to move any of these Divas. I mean, if I really have to move one, I say, yeah, man. I gotta be honest with you. I really don't see the point of Divas in Raw. You know what? Somebody else take care of that. SmackDown. I am gonna say, let's see. Alright. First thing first, who should get the hell out of here? Okay, Jinder Mahal can go to Raw because he's not doing shit in SmackDown. He can go to Raw to get buried. One woman? Really? not Kurt. Oh, really? Just 3 guys and 1 woman? Oh, okay. Sorry, I misread that. Okay. Yeah. Oh, okay. I see. Okay, so can I do over?
I think you just the 3 guys, and you're basically like, I don't know, I don't care about the divas moving at all.
Okay. Oh well, okay. I'll do one. I'll do one diva. How's that?
Okay.
Alicia Sura, because that woman should not belong in any type of competition ever.
And if she's on Raw, she probably won't be. So, I'm dreading this already. I don't want to do it. Net Jester.
Who me? Pick me up. Oh!
Net Jester, just give me 3 people and a check.
Alright. Believe it or not, I actually have some semi-good ideas. First of all, Mr. Skip Sheffield, what's his name? Oh yeah, right.
Ryback.
Right.
I want him to... No, I was facetious, with this howdy do line or whatever it is. Anyway, but, yeah, he comes over to Raw. And, I really believe we need to pump up the testosterone because, some stuff is beginning to go stale. So, in addition to him, I also want to see brought over somebody can actually, hit some shit. Besides Ryback, I think the best guy for that job would be Ezekiel Jackson, Big Zeke, and Ryback, and also a surprise. I want to take one of the few shining spots on SmackDown and bring him over to Raw, and that would be Mr. Drew McIntyre himself. So those 3 guys I'd like to come over to Raw. And as for a SmackDown diva, we could really throw a monkey wrench into current storylines if we brought AJ over. I wouldn't mind that to see if she could, do something with the Divas division, but I don't think too much since her storyline right now is within Daniel Bryan until the day he dies. And as for the reversal,
Chester, we just threw this.
Locking. Yeah, right.
3 guys, 1
That's
woman
all, folks. All right, all yours.
Okay, I'm gonna make mine really, 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 really quick. The Miz to SmackDown, Zack Ryder to SmackDown, Wade Barrett to Raw, and Tamina to Raw. I'm done.
Bim bam boom, I like that.
Well, he had time to think about it.
Yes. And I'm going to just do mine real quick. They are Riley and JTG, still really got JTG, to SmackDown because who gives a fuck. Justin Gabriel to Raw because I want to watch him be awesome on a show that I actually watch every single week as opposed to somewhat sporadically. And Kelly to NXT because I never, ever watched that show. That is it for kayfabe issue. So I believe it's time to turn it over to Gunner for the second best part of the show, Dairy Queen drive-thru.
Dairy Queen drive-thru. Dairy Queen drive-thru. Dairy Queen drive-thru.
Time for the Dairy Queen drive-thru, and I'm going to start off with Vassar and his great readings of the ratings.
Thank you. We will start it off like always with Impact. Impact Wrestling drew a 0.98 cable rating with one. With 1.4 million viewers. This would be TNA's lowest rating for the show this year since February. Scott Steiner must have had an effect. Or was it the fact no one cares about Eric Bischoff? The 413 replay of the April 10th Super SmackDown live show did a 1.55 cable rating with 2.3 million viewers. It was actually did better than its live counterpart, which did a 1.52 with 2.24. Raw last night did a 0.1 rating with 4,336,000 viewers. The show did hours of 3.05 and 3.11, while the viewership rose by 34,000 people from hour 1 to hour 2.
I think the moral story here is that a rerun of SmackDown did better than Impact show.
Yep, absolutely.
But do go on.
And finally, a little bit of an extension of last week, the real WrestleMania number. WWE announced that WrestleMania 28 held April 1st at Sun Life Stadium in Miami set new records for pay-per-view buys and gross sales. Preliminary estimates show that WrestleMania, featuring the historic once-in-a-lifetime match for Rock and John Cena garnered 3 million pay-per-view buys with global gross in excess of $67 million, including the live event. WrestleMania was seen around the world on pay-per-view more than 105 countries in 20 languages. Next year's WrestleMania will take place Sunday, April 7th at the MetLife Stadium in East Rutherford, New Jersey. It will be announced later this year.
Alrighty then, and now it is time for birthdays, and we're actually going to have our guest, Ramses, read off the birthdays this week.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay. I'm so sorry. Gunner, birthdays. Okay. So, I got the birthdays here. So, I'm going to stop for a few seconds, and then I'm going to say the birthdays. Okay? So, happy birthday to these people. On April 12th, 30 White Boy, Tony Anthony. Also on April 12th, Nobuku Takara. On the 13th, Rick Bryan. On the 14th, Amy Dumas, aka Lita. On April 15th, it was Volkan. April 16th, it's Drake Brewer, aka Joe Doring. April 16th, it's Paul London. Also on the 16th, George the Animal Steel. On the 17th, it's Asia Christine Wolf. And on the 17th, it's Kevin Kelly and Rowdy Piper. And that's about it. Am I missing anybody?
No, you're not, actually. And that was the birthdays. And here is Omega BR with This Week in Wrestling.
Yes, this week in wrestling history, circa 1931, Ed Strangler Lewis defeat Ed Don George in Los Angeles, California to capture his 4th World Heavyweight title. Jump decades to 2001. NWA Southwest discontinues its hardcore division, retiring the NWA Texas Hardcore title. The final champion was Convict number 00187. The title had its roots as the NWA Texas Brass Knuckles title, created in 1953 by Paul Boisch, Southwest Sports. It was retired first in 1987 by the World Class Wrestling Association and revived in 1998. And last year, 2011, Chikara holds the finals of their 2011 King of Trios tournament in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, at the historic ECW Arena. The finals saw the Colony versus Team Fist. Bryce Remsburg refereeing. Green Ant would pin Icarus with a splash from on top of the 2 other ants who were standing on the ropes. I believe they call that an ant hill. And the 2011 King of Trios would be the Colony, on a night that would also see Sean Waltman defeat, I believe, El Generico as the 1-2-3 Kid. An event I was at, as a matter of fact, and what a sight it was. And that is this week in wrestling history.
Alrighty then, and now it is time for Happy Trails. Happy Trails to Wrestle Reunion. Wrestle Reunion. Al Cornette has announced via press release that Wrestle Reunion is suspended further convention events as of today. Cornette, not to be confused with Jim Cornette, said that the decision was made due to dwindling attendance in 2012, with attendance in Los Angeles making the idea of returning there extremely unlikely, and the sales in Toronto this weekend not meeting expectations. Cornette said, "Our results, along with results of other autograph shows that I'm involved with, along with a glut of events that are out there, tell me that it is time to take a step back, let conditions correct themselves, and or let other opportunities come to the forefront. I am currently exploring some potential single events using some of its legends and younger talent that we have used the last several years at Wrestle Reunion events." Also,
and future endeavors to Gunner for not being able to read, Sal Corrente.
Corrente, thank you. Thank you. Yes, as our mispronunciation on this show continues, a streak that has lasted 35 shows. Happy trails to TNA knockout Tracy Brooks again, who has been removed from TNA's roster page indicating her release from the company. She hasn't appeared on TV since January 5th, and she confirmed this week on her Twitter, I believe. So goodbye, Tracy Brooks. And now we're going to do a special little segment, and since we have the guys, the Plastic Joint Podcast here, I would like to let them do their thing for a couple minutes, about 3. And we can do a little thing called Toy Talk, and there we'll talk about the action figures that are coming out for the WWE coming up this year, or the ones that have already been released.
You know what, first of all, before we go on, first of all, I want to say it's a really shame of a wrestling reunion. I've been to the one of their shows in LA a couple of years ago, and that was a hell of a lot of fun, and one particular match was sad as hell. But anyway, regarding WWE figures, Rams, you want to go first?
Sure. Well, like, should you give like a basic primer as to like what's available right now, as to like who's doing what, like for what company and stuff?
Yeah, sure. Let's start with that. I think Mattel's the main one, so let's start with there.
So yeah, Mattel, they have several different WWE lines. They have their they have their basics line, which is just like your basic articulation, not really too much. They look like the wrestlers, but they can't really go too far. But if you want to start going up like in scale in both in articulation, which is like how you can pose them and do the different wrestling moves, you want to go to the elite scale. That's a little bit more expensive, but it's worth it because a lot of it's like they go out of the way to make a lot more of they go out of the way to make everything authentic. Right down to like the shirts they wear to the ring and stuff like that. Am I
as authentic as they can.
Yeah, it's like there's certain things like with CM Punk they can't really put like all his tattoos. Obviously, like we can put the big Cobra symbol on his arm, or we can put the Pepsi symbol there also. But they do what they do best. But like with shirts and stuff like that, and anything else like paraphernalia, they do pretty good. They do a pretty good job with that.
Yeah, I mean, although I will say this, the recent Cody Rhodes, the undashing version, his hooded jacket, I think it could have been detailed a little bit, cheap out, I guess.
So I noticed actually that with the more standard figures, they seem to have switched from cloth, kind of screen print t-shirts to more the little plastic ones you just kind of put over them.
No, Elites, I think they still have t-shirt. It really depends on which figure you're getting. With something like Cody Rhodes, it's still cloth. It's still fabric. It's just more cotton.
Well, I saw Randy Orton recently on the shelf, and he actually has like the plastic shirt instead of
that's what I was thinking of. I know with the Elite series they have all the more maybe they're just saving it for the Elites and for the standard figure. It's
quite possibly because Daniel Bryan one has cloth.
Right. So the last one that they do is they do a more elaborate kind of figure called the Defining Moments figure, which is the Defining Moments figure. It takes the figure from whatever pay-per-view or whatever event they're trying to do, and they base the figure off that event.
Now, I got a question for you guys. Have you heard anything about newer Macho Man figures? Because I know with his passing and whatnot, that might have gotten installed. I do have the ringside moment, or the moment figure that we're talking about here. Yeah, and I've got the WrestleMania 8 one, I think it is, with him in the purple and white suit, looking awesome. I have that figure, and I was wondering if there was going to be any more of those.
I do remember there was new Randy Savage figure announced, and believe it or not, it's the NWO version.
Yeah, I believe that would be a Ringside Collectibles exclusive, I believe. But yeah, it's gonna be a Macho Man decked out in NWO white gear.
I will have to go check that out. Now, is there any particular toys that we should be looking forward to, or is there any particular toys that you personally enjoy out of this current set of WWE figures?
The current set wise, look, when it comes to the Elite figures, articulation, all pretty much the same. When it comes down to it, it's all about aesthetics and whatever other accessories comes with. Right now, I hate to admit it, I'm enjoying the hell out of Cody Rhodes because he comes with this plastic paper bag that you can put over most figures' head, and it just makes for a hilarious photo shoot.
I tap right there and then I tap.
Let me ask you this: are there any debuts coming up? Anybody with their first figure coming out?
Let's see. Series 15, Sin Cara, R-Truth, Evan Yokozuna, and that's far as debuts go.
We'll know more by San Diego Con, because usually they're either before, because usually they'll do like a fan thing beforehand, or they'll do it at San Diego where we'll see a lot more. So keep an eye out. you can check out our website. We'll keep everybody up to date with that.
And what is your website?
Our website is www.plasticjoint.com. We discuss toys, and we also have a wrestling podcast, which me and Sam we host. And we go all over the place. We talk about everything in between, not just toys and wrestling, but talk sometimes about tokusatsu, like those weird Japanese TV shows that like Power Ranger like shows, and anything else that we will please to talk about. So if you're into like anything, like if you want to really know about what's up with toys and action figures, or if you're a wrestling fan, you want to just talk toys with us, or you want to talk wrestling stuff with us, come to our website. We're totally down with everything.
Cool beans.
I need to check this out.
Thank you very much, guys. We're going to wrap it up here with our match suggestions this week. We'll start at the top here with Omega.
Oh, I don't know. Suppose how about the Jeff Hardy versus Kurt Angle match from Lockdown? Because, well, we all gotta do things we don't want to.
Well, I guess that was the matchup that everybody getting hot over each other.
People did say that was probably the best match of the show.
I would have to agree, actually. It's the pay-per-view, and I kind of regretted it. Although it was on mute, so I didn't really regret it that much. We're going to skip me, because I have no idea at the moment. And Vassar, go ahead.
I'm going to steal this one from beneath the feet of the person that says it every week, but the CM Punk versus Henry match. Because it was a really interesting match that they had with the stipulations under it.
Yankum?
It's time to go back in the time machine, because my match suggestion for this week is the I Quit match between Mick Foley and The Rock. This is the match with what was it, Gunner? 13 headshots, 20 headshots?
Something ridiculous. I think it was like 29 or something like that. And it was just blatant headshots, and the Foley skids being on the side there. It was profiled in Beyond the Mat. You got to saw the backstage reactions to it and whatnot, and Foley's kids crying because Daddy's hurt and whatnot, and yeah.
Yes. Go watch that, and then take all that in, and then look at this feud going on with Foley and God, now I can't even remember his name.
Dean Ambrose. Dean Ambrose is the name.
There you go. Dean Ambrose. And then, kind of maybe see where he's coming from. But he still sucks because Foley is gone.
I resent that, man. The Outlaw, what do you think?
Does the battle between Brock Lesnar and John Cena at the beginning of the Rock count as a match? Because I think that was a hell of a match.
I think that's perfectly fine. Net Jester.
Well, I'm going to go against type, and even though he's not Woo's favorite, I'm going to suggest people take a good look at the deterioration of John Cena in the Cena Tensai bout from this past week on Raw. Not only proving that Albert can still, pretty well go, even though we haven't seen him in quite some time. It also is something that's really fun to watch as far as Cena, because how far will Cena's downward spiral go? And I know I've crossed that several times when I've seen this, but sooner or later, if this keeps up, we could be looking at heel Cena.
Potential. There could be a potential, but probably not, Jester. Sorry. Ramses, what do you think? What should we watch this week?
I'm gonna regret saying this because I'm gonna use a name that I really don't know how to say, but it was actually a pretty decent match from this. Impact Wrestling. It was a match between Austin Aries and Christopher Daniels.
Yes, that was actually a really good match. It was from Impact, and it really was neat. This week, I'm going to tell you to go watch the Eric Young and ODB wedding segment, actually, because it was
Who the hell would you do that?
One of the best. One of the best wedding segments ever in professional wrestling, period. Only to that of Billy and Chuck. All right.
Oh, God.
Oh,
come on, that was
fun. What about Lita and Edge with Kane coming up through the stage, and did he choke slam the priest?
He did. No, I thought it was more entertaining. I thought it was more entertaining with Eric Bischoff revealing himself as the whatchamacallit, the pastor person, and then saying
That
3
was one of the
minutes?
more creative things they've done.
For
Really
me-
since.
The other thing with me, the best wedding will never never be with Teddy Long and what's her face? Oh,
Oksana, when she
no,
when
Oksana,
Teddy
no.
Long had the heart attack.
Crystal.
yeah,
Oh,
Crystal,
Crystal.
and then
There you go.
Crystal, and then like it was like during the reception, the Godfather comes out.
Yes.
Oh my
Personally,
God.
I like the actual Kane and Lita wedding with Kane in the white suit, and he came out to that classical rendition of his theme song.
That was interesting. Well, we could on this all week. However, we do have to go because we are out of time. So, ladies and gentlemen, you can check us out on Wookie.org. That's Wookie with 3 O's. You could follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/SmarkSnark. Like us there. Follow us on Twitter. We're going to get to 100 followers by the end of the month. That is Smark Snark on Twitter.com. You can also check us out on iTunes. Like us there, subscribe, give us 5 stars, help us out. We can get rated and join. And if you don't like iTunes and you hate Apple products because you pay $400 for a stick up your ass, you can check us out on Podomatic or Podbean, one of the two, and you can find Wookie.com. Automatic. Thank you very much. You can check us out on Wookie.org. So, for my...
Wait.
Hold on.
You forgot 2 of the most important things. The first one being, you can email us at smarksnark@gmail.com. Please email us. I'm so hungry. No one ever emails me. And
Not even
number
me.
2, that's right, not even Gunner emails me. And number 2, we have awesome t-shirts in our shop. You should go check out our Dick Butt Yes t-shirt and our Damien Sandow Class t-shirt. Both are pretty awesome. Yeah, both are pretty awesome if you ask me.
That is the end of the show. So thank you very much for listening. Thank you guys from the Plastic Joint Podcast, Ramses and Outlaw. Thank you to our guests this week, Vassar and Net Jester, coming fashionably late as usual. Thanks to our sound producer, Yank and DDS, and Omega PR for being my host and buddy throughout this 35 weeks. So, with that being said, keep listening to your hair.
Woo, woo, woo.
Right, San Diego.